Welcome back to another episode of Effortless Conversations. And today our guest is James Guggenheim. You go by Jim, right? Can I call you Jim?
Jim is fine.
All right, great, Jim. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jim. You're retiring soon, huh?
Yeah, I've been in this industry since 1985. And like everybody else in the industry, sort of just fell into it. No one goes to school for this. There's no college, and no one grows up saying I want to be a mortgage person. And I've been with the company for over 30 years, which I know is like dinosaurish compared to the world nowadays. I've lived around here, lived in Princeton for a bit after we got married in '83, and I've lived in Hopewell since '85, I guess, or '86. I'm trying to remember. Made a life of this business, and ready to move on to the next chapter.
What's the next chapter look like?
Next chapter, well, COVID kind of threw a curveball in, so we didn't really make a ton of plans for right now, which we probably would have. My original plan was, to spend the whole summer going to music festivals and, driving around doing things like that. But because of COVID, we didn't really plan anything. Because you didn't know when vaccines were going to come, when everything you were going to get out of it, and so. We're going to end up watching our grandchildren quite a bit over this summer. And the first big thing we're doing is we're renting a ski house in Lake Tahoe for 5 weeks.
Oh, man.
Last week of February through the first Saturday of April next year.
Oh, you can't beat that.
Yeah, and we have passes that cover a bunch of mountains, so there'll be, I think there's 2 or 3 right around Lake Tahoe we can go to. So
that's amazing.
It'll be fun. And on the way out, because we're driving, Rich is going to be in Colorado for a month with his family, and his dad's going to be out there. So we're going to stop on our way through and probably stay with them for a couple days and go skiing and hang out.
Sounds like a dream trip.
So it'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be great.
Cool. I'll tag along. Thanks for the invite.
Excuse me?
I'll tag along.
Yeah,
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. We've been out to Lake Tahoe a few times, once. My wife's been out twice, and it's just beautiful. The vibe's great. A lot of money comes in from San Francisco on the weekend, but the people that live there, it's more of a regular place.
Are they like hostile to outsiders, or do they welcome you?
Everybody seems very friendly out there.
That's good.
Been to Park City. It's real rich out that way. So. Colorado was actually more expensive to rent a house, so I just figured we'll go a little bit further and go to Lake Tahoe since I like it anyway.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be fun.
I'm very jealous.
Yeah, and we're gonna go down and visit the folks in Charleston in October. We're gonna go a week down Folly Beach, however you say it.
Yeah,
right
Folly.
Outside of Charleston, and then we're gonna go. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law in Myrtle Beach and Surfside Beach actually. And we're gonna stay there for a week, so that's our first vacation really after this.
I love Surfside.
Yeah. I have a timeshare there, so.
Oh, great.
So Janet bought a house down there.
No way.
Yeah.
Man, I go there. I've been there every summer with my family since I was a kid.
Janet's gonna retire down there when she retires. So her husband's retired. He goes down.
Okay.
Somebody turn the lights on. Need to go turn them off?
Yeah, I'll do that real quick.
That's fun.
So Surfside Beach, retiring down there.
Yeah, Janet's gonna retire down there. She bought a house right in the same development where our timeshare is, which was like small world kind of thing.
That's all, and you guys hadn't coordinated that.
No, I just happened to get we were going down to visit my brother-in-law, and I knew she went down there all the time. She said, "Oh yeah, we decided to buy a house," so we went and actually looked at it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, drove by because I don't know which one, but we drove through the neighborhood where they were building our house, so it's cool.
And so, where are you living right now?
I live in Titusville in Hopewell, right next town, over a mile from here.
And are you gonna stay here after you retire? Or
Probably not. It's the taxes are too high. I mean, I'd stay in my house forever. I'd never move, but I can't justify financially staying in a house where paying $16,000, $18,000 a year in taxes when I can move somewhere and pay $3,000.
$18,000 in taxes. That's wild.
It's very expensive. Jersey, you get great schools, you get great service. There's a lot of people live here because it's compact. Not so much where we are here, but the whole state.
Yeah.
And but you pay for it. That's what you got to pay for it somehow. So it's unfortunate. A lot of older people move out for that very reason. I mean, literally would never move from my house if it wasn't for the taxes.
It's wild. My wife and I are in the housing market right now, and
Yeah.
it's just like the taxes have been the breaking point for almost everything
Well,
we've
it's really
done.
funny when I was a loan officer for from '85 to like '98ish, and when I started getting into management, and I used to say to people when they're getting qualified, I said, you got to really look at the difference in taxes. It's a huge, you're looking in one town where the taxes are twice as much as the other. You're going to qualify for a lot less loan. And people don't realize that. And that's what loan officers need to educate people when they first start looking, because everybody's concerned about what's your rate, but educate them on the other things, and people will come to you because you're being a consultant and you're not just a salesperson.
Yeah, it's so true. I had no idea about the taxes before I got into the market.
Yeah.
And just like, we'd do the numbers. I'd be like, oh, this is a great one. And then we'd add in the taxes, and
Right.
this puts
and
us
people
over.
look at condos and townhouses, and they forget about the association fees. And now the association fees are going to remove some costs for you, landscaping and taking care of your yard and things. But I don't think it's the same cost that you're paying every month. So, but that's the other thing you got to take into consideration if you're looking at that kind of property. So,
Yeah.
it's just the things you learn over the years. As I said recently in one of my emails to everybody, be interested. You can get far in life by just saying, oh, that's interesting. Don't know what that means, and go look it up yourself.
Yeah.
Or look for help to find the answers. But that's how I got where I am.
Right.
It wasn't because I went to school. I was a loan officer, just like any other loan officer. I wasn't a manager or anything. And I was the guy that we had a guy, Brad Dimmick, ran the company when I came here, and he was a real salesy guy. He was a recruiter. He was that kind of sales manager, and he realized after a short period of time that I was very good at the analytics of things, and I would look. We used to have these binders that were this thick with the guidelines in them, and every investor had different rules. It wasn't like they were all the same. So you had to dig through and find out information. And he realized that I knew all that stuff and did it. So he used to send other loan officers to me all the time to help him with things like that, which lasted for a while until he started doing I'm out playing golf this afternoon. Call Jim if you have any issues.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, I'm a commissioned salesperson.
So
I
you're
am not doing this. And so I became Mr. I don't know. One of the loan officers called me I don't know, because that was my answer to everything except for my three buddies that work for the company. Them I would help.
Yeah, you just got to start batting
And then
those.
guess what? I became the assistant sales manager and started getting paid for it.
There you go.
Then I was fine with it.
Right, once they saw they needed to pay you for this information.
Exactly. And then I was cool with it. So, and that's literally how I ended up getting into, management at Princeton Mortgage, because he left. Rick Weidel, the owner, I don't even think he knew I was the assistant manager.
Uh-huh.
And he had me, while he was looking for somebody else, kind of handle some stuff. And, we ended up here a million years later.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And so you say you kind of fell into the mortgage industry. Did you start out as a loan officer? Or?
Yeah, I started out as a loan officer. I got in, here's another little, how the world spins in a circle. So we are living in this 2-family house, renting. Owner wants to sell it. We tell him when we rent it, hey, come to us first. He doesn't. He goes to a realtor. Realtor shows up. We're like, well, we'd like to buy it. So she puts us in touch with a loan officer with this company, City Federal Savings and Loan. We end up buying the house. About a month after we closed, Marcy Brody, our loan officer, calls me up and says, hey, we're opening an office in Princeton. I think you could do this. Why don't you come talk to my manager? And at the time, I'm working for a publishing house, just making follow-up calls for salespeople. When I got out of college, unemployment was 12%. So it was. I painted houses for a while.
Yeah.
With a contractor, and then I just took any job I could get that was in an office, because every time I went in an interview, they were like, oh, you don't want to work here because you're used to working in outside
Right.
and stuff. So I wasn't making any money. That's my point. I was making $10,000 a year or something doing that. So I went for the interview. The guy wants to hire me. So I got in the mortgage business by getting a mortgage. It's 25 years later. A friend of mine from high school calls up. Hey, my daughter is interested in getting a mortgage business. Can you talk to her? I call her up and talk to her. I'm like, yeah, sure. Call her up. It's exactly how she got in the mortgage business. Her and her husband bought a house. Guy gave them the mortgage. Month after closing, calls her, sometime after closing, calls her up, says, I think you could do this. Are you interested in coming and working for me? And that's how she got in the mortgage business.
That's so interesting.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
It was like not partially the same story, the exact same story.
Right.
And she's still in the business. She was a loan officer. I think she's a processor now.
Okay.
Maybe she can work for us at some point.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that'd be more interesting. So.
It's so interesting because I've heard some stories about how, recruits get brought
Everybody
up.
gets in the mortgage business. There is no school for this. And,
Right.
a lot of salespeople get in it by knowing somebody else. I mean, the best way to get in it is to know another loan officer, to be in the sales side of it.
Right.
And, people were pretty surprised when I got in sales. I'm not a salesy guy. I'm not the backslapper, lunch goer, all that stuff.
Right.
But I figured out, I would say I was a B minus with the getting the leads, meaning the realtor solicitation, that
Right.
part, but I was an A plus with the borrowers because I knew how to talk to them and I knew how to, would sell with math, as I always used to say. I would teach them how they could save money. I would talk to them about loan programs that maybe somebody else wasn't going to talk to them about, to show them how they could save themselves some money, depending on how long they were going to stay in their house. Didn't mean they took the program I talked to them about, but because I was selling that way, I could get away with having slightly higher rate or slightly higher fees. Not all the time, but a lot of times. So I sold by being a consultant to the client, the borrower. I didn't have to be as good with the realtors then once they knew I was so good with the borrowers, because the borrowers would rave about me too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So takes all kinds to be a loan officer. You can do it either way.
Right. So your weapon was more your extensive knowledge of everything that's
It
going
was just
on.
being analytical and teaching them how to, I'll tell you what, the first 4 years I was in the business, or 5 years before I came to Princeton Mortgage, I was, everybody was the same age. We were all in our 20s. The old guy was 30. It was amazing. Because the business was young.
Right.
Prior to that, everybody got their mortgage from a bank. Mm-hmm. And it was just starting up, probably a little bit earlier than when I got in it, where you had these salespeople out soliciting for loans. There were way more transactions back then too. You have to remember. So there was a lot more activity. Houses used to turn over more often because people would try to move up, from a 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house to a 4-bedroom house. Way more. Whereas nowadays people stay in their house longer.
Right.
Or have anyway. I forgot what my whole point of that was. So what I used to do, when I came to Princeton Mortgage, and I was in this little room smaller than this with a ceiling that was curved, and me and these 2 other loan officers were in there, and in 6 months I learned more from those 2 guys than I had learned in the prior 5 years I was in the business, because we each had a unique way of talking to people, and because we were in this little tight space, you heard their line of bullshit or their way of selling, and they heard mine, and then we would feed on each other. One guy was really, really salesy. He was the backslapping guy, the guy that would take you fishing, go hunting with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That guy. And the other guy, Bob, that was Bruce Turner. He was with the company almost from its inception when I got here. And then Bob Hart, who had actually worked with me at City Federal when we were both there. And then he came on, and he was analytical like me, but like kind of in the middle. He could do both, and I was way more the analytical side. So, but we all learned from each other, and we come up with our own programs. Bloomberg. Bloomberg is Bloomberg News.
Right.
Well, they opened a corporate office in Montgomery, which is like a couple towns over. So, you know how we have the affinity relationship?
Yeah.
We did our own.
Okay.
And all it was, and it was just word of mouth, because they had their own internal, intranet back before anyone even knew what any of that stuff was.
Right.
And we got on it, and it was free application fee. And it was we just made every other loan officer, if they got somebody at Bloomberg, to make sure they gave them a free application fee. And we used to just get business like this. So we just did a lot of stuff on our own that the company didn't care, because we were like our own individual businesses working for the company.
That's so cool.
So you know, and then in the long run, you know, I made my living, put my kids through college, you know, paid for my daughter's wedding, and saved up for a retirement, you know. And you know, not to my wife has been working the whole time. She's a teacher. She's retiring now because she's got her enough time in so we can get free medical. So
great.
You know, so like between the two of us, we've gotten to this point by, you know, working hard, saving our money. Doesn't mean we didn't have fun, but you know, we didn't extravagantly spend money. A lot of salespeople make the mistake of, you know, they have that one big year and then they think they can live off of that.
Right.
Like they can live like that's the money they're always going to make, and you know, they end up getting themselves all in trouble.
Right.
So I actually had discussions with some of our salespeople in the middle of last year specifically about that.
Yeah, I was wondering.
And not to do it, you know, and just to be careful. And you know, it doesn't mean you can't take care of yourself. You can go buy yourself a car or whatever, but you know, don't buy an $800,000 house when your previous 5 years said you should be buying a $300,000 house.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't do stupid things like that. And that's how we've always treated our lives. So.
And that's great of you to be able to step in and say, "Hey guys, look, I know that you're having fun."
I've been through the wars.
Yeah.
And I've seen what people have done. Now, from the company standpoint, you like, you know, as a manager, you like when people do that. Let salespeople do that because it puts pressure on them to make more money. So.
Right.
But you know, as a human being,
yes,
I like having the discussion.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You don't always get that from managers.
Yeah, you gotta, you know, to be the kind of company we want to be, you have to care about the individuals who work for the company too.
Yeah.
It's not just the bottom line, and it's a fine line. It's hard. Everything's hard.
Yeah, that's no joke.
We're everybody likes yes/no answers, and unfortunately, there's shades of gray.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Everything.
And, that's our business. That's what mortgage business is. Hey, you wouldn't need a loan officer or a processor if it was simple.
Oh, I never had any idea how nuanced
it would just be, you know, that's why I find it hilarious, the whole, you know, Quicken nonsense with, you know, their app.
Right.
That's a pre-qualification program. I have a pre-qualification program I created on my computer in, you know, 1990. You know, it's the same thing. It's
right.
Just they've found a way to market it and get everybody to believe it. It's a lot more complicated than they make the TV commercials.
Yes.
You know, because everybody's life's different.
Yeah. And I never realized how nuanced the mortgage industry was and how, you know, many different wrong turns you can take.
It's getting, I mean, I think it's going to be more complicated from the employment side of things going forward because of the way the world has changed with the people working from home and the people working for themselves and you know, the Uber economy kind of thing where you're not an employee but you sort of are, and you know, a lot of rules and regulations and how you qualify and how we do things are probably going to change over the next few years because of that. So you know, that's why it's not just about interest rate and fees. It's about who can help you if you're somebody buying a house or refinancing. It's about who can help you do the right thing for you.
Right.
You know, because the right thing for you is not the right thing for me or the right thing for your sister or for my sister. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, everyone's situation is different.
Everybody's situation is different. As I like to say, you never know what's going on behind closed doors in somebody else's house.
I bet it got really interesting last year with COVID. Did you see some interesting cases come through that?
Well, it was just there. Unlike most of the time since Fannie and Freddie and FHA and VA have been, you know, out there with specific rules, they were somewhat chaotic in that they were vague on what you had and you could and could not do, and therefore, whenever it's vague, that means we're responsible. They can come back and hang you for it. So you just had to be really careful. Just, you know, we had to go through where we re-verified employment, you know, several times during the process just to make sure people were really working still and still getting paid what they said they were getting paid. You know, we had to cancel a lot of loans.
Wow.
Even though we did so much business, we still had to cancel a lot of loans because of the you know, employment situation and the unknown to it all. Just think of all the people that work in the service industry.
Yeah.
You know, the malls were shut, the restaurants were shut, you know, even gas stations were shut. Like, you know, you have a ton of people that work in that. And then all the companies that then supply those places, they're all affected.
Yeah.
The airline industry You know, I talked to a guy, I play soccer, and I saw a guy, first time I've seen him in years, came out to play yesterday, and he's the pilot. And I was asking him about last year, and he said, like, he walked through JFK Airport, and he said it was like, he thought he was in like one of those, you know, zombie apocalypse movies.
Right, like the Langoliers.
There was nobody there, you know, like,
yeah.
You know, at all. And so, you know, who would ever have thought we'd go through something like this, and masks are normal, and, you know, that kind of thing. And
so wild.
It's amazing. So, I mean, we rent a ski house in Hunter in the Catskills for the ski season for the last, I don't know, 10, 11 years, since my kids got out of college. And I waited till September or October to tell the guy I was going to take it or not. You know, I waited till the last minute.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really sure what the state was going to let him do, you know, what it was going to be like. And you know, there was probably tons of stuff like that where people just said, nah, I'm not doing it this year.
Yeah.
You know.
And then you saw people that were local being hostile to people that were trying to come escape for
some places.
Some places.
I did not see it up there at all, because they're used to. They need that. They need the influx of people from the ski mountain, because that's the only income they get up in places like that. But yeah, there's a lot of places like that. But amazingly, the real estate industry went crazy.
Yeah, right.
And all these towns that were downtrodden, you know, going along the Hudson River up that way, they're now hot, because everybody from the city, you know, wanted to move out and go up that way. Same with around here. Like, all the houses around here, you know, have gone way up in value, where they were kind of stagnant for 10 years.
Right.
And I think it's because the younger people, I always say you're 10 years behind our generation on doing everything, getting married, buying houses, the whole thing. On top of that, they also wanted to live in the cities. Well, that's all changed. Yeah. And now, so down here, it's not the people from the cities moving here necessarily, but it's just people from the suburbs moving a little further out. You know? And it's made values go crazy. Yeah.
Have you ever, in your time in the mortgage industry, seen such a shakeup that COVID brought?
Yeah. There was a year back when I've gone through several times where business fell off the face of the earth, and it felt as if you were never going to do a loan again and never make any money, or the company wasn't going to. This is like the fourth or fifth one. The one I remember the most was because I was having my house built at the time, and we were living in a rental, and I made more money in June that year than I made in November, December, January, February, March, April, May combined.
Jeez.
Because the state of New Jersey laid off like 10,000 state workers. Mm-hmm. GM, which was down the street from us, actually closed their plant here.
When was this?
94.
94, okay.
94, 95.
All right.
And this was like a great first-time home buyer market right here. So they closed their plant. Ewing doubled their taxes. Doubled, not like doubled them, like overnight, because they lost all that tax revenue. The other first-time home buyer market in this general area was Hightstown, Ewing area. And I think it was like a Pepsi or Coca-Cola bottling plant or something closed down there, and the same thing, doubled their taxes. So the first-time home buyer market went away, which then made the move-up market go away. Rates went up at the same time this was going on, and it was just horrible. But, you know, by the end of that year, made just as much money as I'd made the previous year. Like, it all works out in the end.
Right.
And it's just you have to have some patience, and you got to have some savings when things like that happen.
So did you have patience when that was going on? When you were
I was building the house. Like, what was I supposed to, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the only time I ever thought about getting out of the business was the first place I worked for got taken over by the RTC, like by the government, and they closed the mortgage, and they fired us all.
Oh, wow.
And that was the only time I ever, I was in the business for like 5 years. It was the only time I ever really considered getting out of it. But then once I stayed in it, I was just in it.
Yeah. So like that first time the first time you were up against the market where...
Well, that was the second time. First time was 1987, because when I first got in the mortgage business, a 30-year fixed was 16%.
Okay.
So we used to sell these weird adjustable rate mortgages, and because it was the only way people could afford houses. The first fixed rate I did was at 13%. And people were just thrilled to get it. I still remember that. And the first house I bought, I had a 1-year adjustable that the first year rate was 12%.
Wow.
So that's it's hard for younger people to understand, or even older people to remember it was like that, but it was absolutely like that. So in 1986, rates dropped to 9%. First giant refi boom that the industry had. And when I was in it, it was amazing, made a ton of money. Well, in 2 weeks, the next year, rates went up 2% in 2 weeks.
Damn.
Went from 9 to 11.
And so what happened then?
Same thing. Fell off the face of the earth. No business. I think I made half as much money that year as I did the year before. It was just difficult. But then rates started drifting down, and they've drifted down ever since then, really.
Yeah.
The other times that it's happened, I guess it was 94 I talked about, then 2004, 5, same thing happened. It's usually after, like last year, where it's a giant refi boom. Mm-hmm. Something normally causes that to end. Rates usually go up. Normally there's some economic thing that happens, and then the next year is worse. This year doesn't seem like that's happening. I was afraid it was going to. Kept warning Rich, Armageddon's coming.
Right. Because you've seen it 5 or 6
hold
times.
on for 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, it ended up we had to hold on for 2-3 months. And we're already coming out of it.
That's awesome.
But who knows? It could be anything. I ran our pricing department for years, and I would always get the question, "What are rates going to do?" I don't know. Is North Korea going to blow up a nuke over the Sea of Japan over the weekend? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you got to think, what outlandish thing out there? Are we going to have another hurricane come through New York City?
Is it usually something big like that kind of sets it off? Yeah.
Yeah. Because it affects the economy.
Right.
It's just the economy makes or breaks the mortgage business. What you have to do is insulate yourself by having enough ways of getting business so that you can protect yourself. The more salespeople that we have, the better. The more wholesale relationships we have, the better. The more affinity relationships we have, the better. Because you're getting business from all kinds of places. Even when rates go up, normally, a short period of time, refinances go completely away. But then it'll settle to 20-25% of businesses are refinanced, because not because of interest rate, because people are putting additions on. They're sending their kids to college, weddings, life events. They need to take cash out. There's all kinds of other reasons for you to do a refinance. So the safest thing as a salesperson is to make sure that you have your source of purchase business always coming in, and then the refis are a bonus. And it's the same thing for the company.
It's interesting.
And last year we were backwards completely, but that's fine. I'm not saying not to take advantage of it when it happens. You should take advantage of it, right. But you cannot stay open for, like this company has since 1983, by depending on refis and booms.
And so, in this year, is it kind of switching back?
Switching back. It's not completely switched back, but it's switching back. I think we're starting to see people are getting comfortable again. The masks are off. People have their vax. And people are starting to sell their houses again. Who wanted to have somebody walk through the house last April?
It's very true. Yeah.
Any of that. I mean, it's getting even hard to remember what it was like, but I still remember, you couldn't do anything.
When COVID first started hitting and you started hearing about these lockdowns, you just get a pit in your stomach thinking about where this was going to go?
No, because we had all kinds of financial things get thrown at us all at once, so I had no time to think about me.
Interesting.
I said that to my financial planner 6 months later. I said, I know because I called up and freaked out him a couple times because, you can't keep watching your net worth drop. But everybody's was, for a brief period of time. And but because I was so engrossed with the company's problems and dealing with our issues, I didn't have any time to think about that stuff. So it didn't really bother me. It was more the nights and weekends where, I used to play soccer 3 days a week, and we go bike riding. We weren't even allowed to go bike riding on the trails because all the county stuff was closed, and the state parks were closed, and it's just you forget what it's like
right.
to not have your freedom till you don't have your freedom.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So it does amaze me, though, the way the world reacts. There's 80% in the middle, and the 10% at both ends that are just crazy.
Absolutely.
In both directions, in opposite directions.
You're always going to have the radicals on either side.
No, it seems like there's more of them. There's probably 25% on each end, and maybe 50% of us in the middle. But why anybody wouldn't get a vaccine now, I don't understand.
It's wild.
But whatever.
Yeah,
Teach
whatever.
his own, I guess.
Right.
But the people wouldn't put masks on, just like amazing. I remember riding our bikes once they did open. We ride on the towpath down here along the canal, and going through Lambertville, where you're by houses, and people on their porches yelling at people to put their masks on.
Yeah.
Because they weren't wearing them. So.
Yeah, people get all stirred up over stuff.
Stupid stuff.
Yeah. It's always the dumbest of the issues.
And honestly, it seemed like it was more my age people, older people, that were being the assholes on this one. And.
But they were also most at risk too. So it's all you can understand.
It makes no sense. I mean, the whole rollout was. I mean, there was people in our company that were half my age who got their vaccines before my mother, who was 94 years old.
Right.
I mean, it's just like and I'm not blaming the person. Like, they got in line, but like, should have been a better way of dealing with this.
Yeah, the whole thing was pretty wild.
Yeah, just get the thing to every pharmacy and just show up and get your shot. I got my shot because a friend of mine's daughter moved down here, and she lived with us when she first came down. She had called and said, do you know anybody I could talk to about an apartment? I said, why don't you just live with us for a little while so you can find the area and stuff. So she did. She lived with us for 3 months. So she called me. She was at Mercer County Community College, and she was working at the vaccine site on a Saturday, and they told her, call anybody that we have too many vaccines. So that's how I got my first shot.
Wow.
My wife, on the other hand, at 4 o'clock in the morning is trying to, get an appointment, previous when they made teachers eligible.
Right.
On an ongoing, like, she did it for a week.
Yeah.
Before I got an appointment where I just got a call saying, come on down.
Just make it easy.
I got sick though.
Oh, you did?
Both shots.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
First one was not as bad, but I was tired for a longer period of time. Second one just killed me.
I heard the second one.
One day, and then I was fine after that.
I heard it made a lot of people sick, that second one.
So it's just, I knew it too after the first one. It's like, I'm the dead.
Just started dreading the second
one. I don't go to the doctor. I never take it. I have no medications I take, so my body is not used to these things, I guess.
Just a sudden shock to the system.
Right.
So when COVID was causing all this chaos throughout the world, and we didn't know anything that was going on, did you find comfort in the mortgage industry, knowing that you knew how to at least...
We had so many issues going on and scary stuff going on that I wouldn't say comfort's the right word.
Okay.
We had to... I mean, you had to man up, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And just get through it. But we had capacity issues, meaning the mortgage industry, the way we do business is we don't lend money out of our bank account.
Right.
We have what are essentially like a line of credit on your house that we can draw down. And that's what we lend to our clients, and then get the loans bought off of that line by when we sell them to our investors. Well, we were having capacity issues because business did the opposite. Business went up, and we didn't have enough money. So we were constantly just, juggling to make sure we're selling enough loans quickly enough to get more money, and while in the process of increasing our lines.
Right.
The financial markets in March, and April, seized up to where the value of mortgage servicing went to nothing, which caused us to have a paper loss of lots of money.
Yeah.
And it was just, at the time, you don't really know what's going to happen. Is it gonna be real or not? And but by just the fact that rates got dropped and business went up, we worked our way out of it, and then the markets finally stabilized and came back to normal. But it took a while, and you had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
It reminded me of back in the subprime crisis time. My wife Nancy wasn't getting it. And I said to her one night, I said, you're not understanding what my stress level is. my stress level isn't not that I'm going to lose my job. My stress level is that there might not be an industry.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, our industry might go away completely as we know it, and therefore there will be no jobs for any of us. I said, that's what's worrying me. It's not that, the company going out of business or me losing my job. And this was similar to that, where not that I thought the industry would go away forever, but like, government could have just said, listen, we got to close everything up.
Yeah.
No one, the only thing allowed open is your grocery store, and the gas stations. That could have seized the whole economy up.
Yeah.
And it could have, it would have knocked probably 3/4 of the mortgage companies out of business because, it just would have. There's nothing for anybody to do. So
that's what happened in my industry. I came from the film industry, and as soon as
You did?
Yeah, so as soon as COVID hit, we shut down. Hollywood totally shut down.
What were you doing?
I cut my teeth as a costumer on set, so I would handle like continuity with costumes, blood, dirt, and all that kind of stuff.
Did you go to school for this?
No, I didn't. I kind of fell into it.
My son went to NYU Film School.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's out in Pasadena. He's in LA.
Yeah.
So he's doing the podcast. He does editing. He's everybody's freelance.
Yeah, of course.
And he's actually busier because he's always sort of worked from home. Goes in and he does both. So.
Yeah.
And it's picked back up somewhat, but yeah, he was in the beginning. He was wondering whether to get out of there and what to do. And
yeah, I worked on set, so they just shut down all the sets.
Yeah.
And then we were able to finish. I worked on a Netflix show called Outer Banks. We shot season 2 in Charleston.
Yeah.
And so we were able to do that during COVID.
Right.
But
I'll have to watch it.
yeah, it's fun. But I was a writer on a TV show on HBO called The Righteous Gemstones. And so they're shooting season 2 of that right now. But production totally shut down for that year, and so I had to pivot and find something else. That's how I ended up.
You two in touch with each other because
Yeah, for sure.
You're it's not that many people I meet that are that tried that. So he's out there doing it. He wanted to do this from when he was a kid, and he's doing it. So
Well, editing is such a magical skill
you can't
too.
say that about. He writes. Him and his partner, have scripts out, and he's doing what everybody does, scrambling,
Trying.
making a living,
Yeah.
as he's scrambling, and it's cool.
That's awesome.
My daughter, just while we're talking about family, I have a daughter. She's in Maryland. She's married we have 2 grandkids who are one's turning 5 beginning of January, the other one's 7.
Wow.
And so they're fun.
Yeah.
They're coming. They're going to stay with us 4 weeks over the summer.
Okay.
So that's tying up part of our summer, which will be fun.
That's great.
I had one of them, he finished preschool, and to give his mother a break, he came up and stayed with us, and so I had him for a couple of days while I was working still, and we did great.
That's awesome.
So he's 5 or he's 4, and it's the first time he got to stay without his brother being there, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
And, I was a little nervous about him just being with me while I'm trying to work and bothering me, but we it was great.
It's funny. I've got a.
But then his grandmother took him to school. She's a teacher, teaches preschool.
Oh yeah,
special needs kids, not special ed, special needs kids, and so he went to school. That was it. He wasn't coming to stay with that grandpa anymore after that.
Yeah.
Too much fun there.
My wife taught special needs kids for a long time.
Oh, yeah?
That's a hard thing to do.
Well, so
Takes a special person.
A patient wife too. Then?
Yeah, she's very patient. She keeps me keeps me grounded for sure.
Me too.
Yeah, it's funny though.
I get a lot of St. Nancy's, believe me.
I do believe
more
you.
because of me, but then because of that too.
I do believe you. It's funny. I have a 20-month-old and a 3-month-old right now, and so it's been interesting watching my dad have to like shift back into caretaker mode. When we drop him off.
Yeah, it was a long time before I got to change the diaper.
Yeah.
Really long time.
Yeah, it was like watching him. He's like, I don't even know what to do with this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. So. So like you were talking about, you were afraid the industry was totally going to shut down. So that is what happened to me and a lot of people around the country.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself becoming the answer guy again? Was everyone coming to you asking what to do and what's going to happen, like earlier on in your career?
Well, I've been that anyway.
Yeah.
As I got management. Unfortunately, by being interested and having an opinion on stuff, you get put in charge of things.
Yes.
So, at one point I was in charge of IT as well as post-closing, secondary, negotiating contracts because, I got in charge of post-closing because I'm in charge of secondary. If we can't sell the loans on time, we're not making what we negotiated.
Right.
So I complained so much, I got in charge of it. And then I had an opinion about IT stuff. I got in charge of it. Those kind of things.
So it sounds like anytime you were like, "Hey, this needs to be changed," they're like, they said, "You take care of it, Jim."
Right. So we had the guy running the company, Brian Jennings, at the time. We were good together. He didn't want to deal with the details. Like I was an ex-loan officer. I never negotiated contracts. So the first few months I'd be bringing him in and we'd be talking about him. I could just see his eyes rolling back of his head. Like he had no interest. And I was like, all right, I'll just do it myself and like just figure it out. And like, he was comfortable with me doing it. I became comfortable with me doing it too.
Yeah.
That's all. And it's just how I rolled into this stuff.
It's such a valuable mindset to have too. Yeah. It's like there's a problem, I'm going to fix it.
Hey, the best compliment Rick Weidel ever gave me was one day. It's a family-owned business, so everything was a secret. But I'm applying for us to get new investors. So I need all kinds of information. I need to know everything. I need to see the financials, and they used to sneak them to me, kind of like it was a secret. No one was supposed to know. And like one day, I'm like, Rick, you do know, like I have to know all this stuff. And he said, I implicitly trust you. I still remember that conversation. I implicitly trust you. Whatever you need, don't worry about it.
That is a great compliment.
It is a great compliment. Yeah. And I didn't know him very well. He was the owner of the company. I had worked for the company for 10 years or so at the time, but we didn't really know each other that well. So it's nice to hear that. And I took that as how I treat people.
Right.
I actually told Olivia that a couple weeks ago.
That you implicitly trust her?
Yeah.
And did it take you back to when you got that compliment and think
I said it on purpose because I want her to hear it.
Right.
She I watched her podcast where she didn't mention me at all, so I'm definitely going to mention her now.
Exactly.
And she and Fred Lom either watched his and not one word about me. So Fred, you're on my shit list.
Better watch out, Fred.
That's right. And no, because I told her I want her to. I'm giving her my NMLS account. So that if there's something, like if I can't do something, she can just do it. She can go look for me and see what needs to get done. And I said, because I trust you. Like, you're not going to do anything wrong.
And how did she react? Do you think it sat with her the way it'll sit with you?
I don't know. We'll see. Over time, I think it probably will.
Yeah. That's one of those things that you don't really think about it at the time, but a year or two later, you're like, man, that really meant a lot.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
So, when Brian decided to retire, I actually told. Because Rick implicitly trusted me, I decided to implicitly trust him. And I told him, I'm retiring in 4 years. I'm telling you right now, I'm retiring June 2021. I told them. And, they could have decided at that point to try to find somebody else and blah, blah, blah. But, he obviously didn't. Rich came on, told him the same thing. Said, listen, I'm giving you a timeline, and I'm giving you a timeline because the last transition didn't go that well.
Right.
And I want to make sure this transition did.
Yeah.
All the things that I do and the things I was in charge of and all the things I just know. There's a lot of stuff that is just one-offs.
Yeah.
That just fall your way. I had one the other day where we have a company that's registered in Delaware, and we didn't do whatever the annual corporate whatever, and we got a letter in the mail, and I just went and took care of it. But like somebody just needs to do those things. It was just a miss, and I wanted to make sure that for the most part there weren't too many of those things that were going to happen after I left.
So do you feel good about how you've set up the transition?
Yeah, because to be honest, I'm not doing anything right now.
Okay. So you've basically just set it up?
I'm watching soccer on my laptop while sitting, looking at emails for this week.
That's great.
Olivia had me do some stuff yesterday, but we're 13 days away, whatever. My retirement party's tonight.
Right.
It should be this way. So
it's got to be such a good feeling to know that you're like, this is almost it. I've set it up. Everything's good. Everything's still working.
I'm still staying with the company.
Yeah.
I'm still going to be an employee. I'm going to be like a in-house consultant kind of thing. Licensee. Going to have meetings a couple times a month with the leadership team, with Rich, just to know what's going on. And then, plus people can come to me with issues as need be. I'm just not sitting at my laptop staring at it all day.
Right. But you will still forever be the answers guy.
Yeah.
That's a good place to be.
I like being that guy.
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
Yeah. And I like teaching people, like, you know, I got a lot of, as I turn things over, you know, people would say, well, you come to me, and I'm like, well, did you go to the website and just try to figure it out?
Right.
You know, I said, that's all I'm going to do. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember. You know, you know, some state wants us to do something like, you know, yeah, maybe I did it last year. I couldn't tell you, but all I'm going to do is go to the website and figure it out. So go to the website and figure it out. And if you need help, I'll help you.
Yeah.
You know?
Take the first step. I'll help you with the second one.
When I was a lot more involved with our sales staff, you know, 10 years ago, and they would come to me and ask me like a question, and I'm like, do you think I'm a computer? Like, all I'm going to do is go to a website and look it up.
Yeah.
I said, listen, this is what you need to do. You go look for it. If you can't find it, you don't know where to look, or you don't know how to do it, I'll help you. But don't call me up and say, what's the LTV requirement on a 4-family, you know, second home? I don't know.
Right.
You know, I'm not, you know, I mean, who has all that in their head?
Like, start with a little effort. I'm happy.
All I know is like how to find things out.
Right.
Every single day I'm in this business, practically, something new comes up. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And a lot of times I'll tell people, I don't know. You know, you're gonna have to go figure that one out. Well, guess what I go do? I go figure it out. Because I want to know.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested.
Yeah.
Be interested.
And when you go find the answer to something faster than the person who asked you, do you offer it, or do you just wait to see if they find it themselves?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
See how they do, and then confirm our answers a lot of times. So that's what it is. I mean, if it's a big, giant, important thing, it's different.
Right. Of course.
But if it's just, you know, somebody being some interesting thing, I just let them go on their merry way.
Yeah. And how, you know, a lot of your job is to help take the training wheels off and say, like, you know, you can figure these things out.
Doing that,
yeah.
You know, stop doing. Rich yelled at me one day. Stop doing. Stop doing. So I've stopped doing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And I mean, I didn't do it quite as early as they wanted me to, but I also don't think we were ready for it. But I did start doing it, and that's why I switched to the leaving at 3 o'clock every day. When did I start doing that? I guess I forget when I started doing it, in May. It was because I realized if I kept being available all the time, people were still going to come to me. So if I shortened the time, it actually did make them get off of me more. Good. It really did work.
Yeah.
Because I still saw people coming to me for things that, like, they had other resources. But just for some reason, that 3 o'clock thing, man, stopped it.
Interesting. It's funny how a small change like that can make such a big change.
One time, we used to have our lock desk, because of the way we did business, was open to 4:45, and loan officers always, like, at 4:44 or 4:45 were sending locks in. I changed it to 4:30. It stopped all that.
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's because 4:45 is the end of the day, and 4:30 is not. And so then they would just do them as they got them instead of waiting until the last minute. But it's a psychological thing sometimes, and like I don't have no idea why it happened, but it was amazing to me.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
You know, so you never know with stuff like when things like that will occur.
Just a 15-minute difference.
15-minute difference made a huge difference on the way we dealt with it.
That's wild.
It made it easier for me and whoever it was at the time was working for me, Charlene, or it might have been Jen Rowland, who worked for me prior to that.
Okay.
So, been a lot of names for this company, but since I've been here.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've actually gotten to the amount of, we had 37 loan officers, I think, back in 2003,
okay,
4, something like that. And we finally have gotten to that point again where we have, I don't know how many we have now, but we must be either near or above that.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number.
It's been a long time
since
we've been even close to that.
Wow.
So,
and it feels like it's just growing every week.
Yep. And that's by getting in more states. Yeah, you have to spread out. We were in New Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania Mortgage Company. That's all we were. I actually was cleaning out my stuff upstairs a few months ago because they were rebuilding the offices, and I had brought in as a prop for loan officers complaining how hard it was. I had my accounts book, and my aunt told me when I got in sales, make sure you write down all of your sales and what you're expecting to make, and then check it against what you actually make, because people make mistakes, which is a great piece of advice from my aunt. Who's 99 years old, still hanging on up in Morristown, New Jersey.
Wow.
She was the chief financial officer chief economist for Union Camp, is a big paper company.
Okay.
And so she gave very smart advice with things. But I still had this account book. When loan officers complain, I used to bring it out and show it to them. Like, yeah, this is how many loans I used to have to do to make $45,000 a year. Writing loans on paper, with mail having to come in, and it was 14, 15 loans a month just to make a living, not to make a great living.
Right.
But that just shows you how much more business there was.
Yeah.
There were just that many more transactions. So Will took that as he wanted it for some reason.
All right.
As a historical memorabilia.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All I had was people's last name and how much the loans were and how much money I made.
Is he going to frame it or put it in a shadow box up
I have to
there?
ask him when he's doing it.
Okay, fair enough.
But I was throwing it out. He goes, no, give me that.
That's awesome. He's just like, I'm going to sit down and learn from the master. Look
Made
at
me
this right
think
here.
about, I should have, we used to have this room that was about this big and just had all kinds of crap in it. There was a briefcase computer, which I can't even describe. You had to plug it into a phone line, and it was to dial one specific investor. That's what it was for. Somebody had a bag phone. I don't know what a bag phone is, but it was like a cell phone, except it was in a bag because it was that big.
A bag phone. I've never heard of a bag phone.
Yeah. So you
That's
have to look it up.
hilarious.
We had one of those. I should have
Okay.
kept all this stuff. Would have been great museum pieces.
For sure.
Our first server that was probably had as much power as your cell phone does.
Right, and it's the
Not
size of a
even-
filing cabinet.
Yeah, and 1,000 filing cabinets and stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I have to go, and we still have paper files that can now get destroyed, and I have to go to our off-site location in the next week or two and just go in and make sure we can destroy them all and just get it taken care of before I retire. So
Wow.
that no one forgets that they're there.
That's no small job.
Yeah, no, they're easy. I think I'm going to take a thing of paint and just
there you go.
spray paint, just X them all.
That's
But
awesome.
I'm pretty sure it's everything that's in there we can get rid of. So World Short has come a long way since I started in this business. You had to take an application, wait 30 to 45 days for some human being to look at the credit report to decide whether it was good enough or not. All up to them. It wasn't like no one got to override them.
Wow.
And you had to wait for the mail to come in every day.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean,
No computers, barely electric typewriters.
right. I'm sure it slowed everything down. I mean, you've probably seen everything just turn lightning speed.
You had to beg the closers to close loans because if they made a mistake, they had to start all over. They used to type it on this 3-part paper where there's 3 copies. And if they made an error, they had to restart it. Now there's a lot less papers, but
Right.
still was a nightmare.
It's wild.
Yeah, it went from that to, you literally could apply on your telephone.
Yeah.
On your cell phone.
I know, that's what I did, me and my wife.
It's
so
incredible,
easy,
isn't
yeah.
it? So,
Very awesome.
But it'll change just as much in the future. It's something we can't even think of.
I know, right? It's all on the palm of your hand or something.
Your embedded chip in your head.
Oh man. So you've had an awesome career in the mortgage industry, and you're stepping away. Do you have you've given a lot of good advice in this podcast? Do you have a piece of imparting?
The biggest thing is just, and this is just with everything. It's just, well, first of all, from a human being standpoint, be empathetic to people. I understand how aggravated, because listen, I am Mr. Aggravation. I get so aggravated at stuff, but you have to have empathy for the other side of things and why things happen, and realize whatever you see as the complications, the other person has their own set of complications. So be empathetic to your fellow man, your coworker, the borrower. In our industry, remember there's human beings involved in this, that we're affecting their lives, and it's not just our borrower. It's our borrower's realtor. It's the seller. It's the buyer of their house if they're selling it. You know what I mean? We're all the way down the line.
Right.
And make good decisions and be honorable in the best way you can. And then just the other side is just be interested. Don't wait for other people to get your answers. Seek out your own answers, and you'll just go way farther in life just by doing that.
That's great advice.
I'm not a religious person, but I think I'm a spiritual person. I don't know how to put it any other way.
I can identify with
You know what
that,
I mean?
yeah.
So I do believe in the do unto others.
Yeah, that's great advice.
So that would be my parting shot, I guess.
Okay, I think that's a great parting shot. Coming from a guy who knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. I try to.
Yeah. At least put on the airs. They
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, I can fake it with the best of it.
That's right. And that's sometimes just as important.
Yeah.
And so my last question for you, you said something early on in the podcast that I just have to know the answers to.
Okay.
So you said you're a music festival guy. Just if you had to pick one music festival that you could go to, what would that be? And who would you be seeing?
This is like the question that we get, like, what's your favorite movie? I thought you asked somebody that.
Yes.
Or what's your favorite? There's too many. I have no favorites. There's no favorite of anything. I like going to we for years have gone to something called Mountain Jam. It's on Hunter Mountain. Now it's at Bethel Woods, and they've canceled the last 2 years. But it's got jam band kind of vibe to it. I'm a big Dave Matthews fan. Love seeing him play something like that, but they're too big for it. But I've seen unbelievable people at this concert, and I've also seen. Do you know who the Avett Brothers are?
Oh yeah, I love it. They're from my town.
Avett Brothers. First time I saw them, they used to have the big stage and then the little stage. We're on the little stage. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
And then, they moved up till 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the main stage. To finally, the last time they played there, they were the headliner one night. You know what I mean? So you get to see that progression of stuff. Saw, what's his name? Sean Lennon play on the little stage. John Lennon's son.
Yeah.
Who's, I'm sure he's a gillionaire, right?
Right.
No entourage. I didn't go to I walked by it, but I didn't go get an autograph. At the autograph booth, no entourage. It's like, I love stuff like that where there's no bullshit and it's just that kind of vibe. So, I'll tell you places I want to go rather than festivals.
Okay.
I want to go to Red Rocks.
Yes.
I want to go out to, where's Dave played? Yeah, and out west, the Gorge.
The Gorge.
The Gorge.
Oh, man.
I want to go to places like that.
Yeah.
We're supposed to go to Lock-In. They canceled it.
Okay.
In Virginia this year. Unfortunately, I think because the state is not completely opened up, so what they're doing is 3 smaller weekend things.
Gotcha.
In August, we can't go.
Yeah.
But we are going. The only one we're definitely going to is there's a festival on the Jersey Shore on the beach in Asbury Park.
Okay.
And Pearl Jam's playing at it. The Avett Brothers are playing at it. I can't remember who else. So
nice.
That one's on.
We have a lot of the same likes and tastes. I feel like we would hang out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like young people.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of old people.
Yeah, fair enough.
Older people. So I like young people. I like hanging out with young people. I played soccer last night, and I like challenges. So I'm up against this 255-pound. African American guy who's 30-something years old who basically just threw me away every time he's looking at it. Like he scored like 7 goals in our pickup game,
right?
But like in 5 of them probably against me. But it was like I'm leaning on him, pushing him, grabbing him, and he just like picked me through. Like I was a gnat.
But he probably respected you for hanging with him.
Time, and I like it. I'm the second oldest guy out there, but I love that playing with the 30. There was probably a teenager there, all the way up to a guy that was. I think 63 years older.
And it's important to stay active like that.
We have a 74-year-old guy that comes out every once in a while. He's from Argentina. He actually lives around here somewhere. And it's amazing.
That's wild.
And he doesn't look like he's that old, so you got to tell the young guys, like, leave him alone.
Yeah. Is this just a group of friends
that... over. Right.
Right. Is this just a group of friends that meets?
No,
or
it's just whoever shows up.
Just kind of an organic thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
For this pickup thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So, had a guy come back yesterday, the airline guy, pilot guy. I haven't seen him he hasn't played with us in 10 years, but he came back.
Wow. How long have you been doing that?
Since I was 39.
Wow, that's awesome.
So.
That's a great thing to have to be able to look forward to every week and get your energy out, throw some elbows.
Absolutely, throwing those elbows.
Yeah, right?
Anybody that watches this knows me from soccer will definitely laugh at that.
All right, fair enough. Watch out for those sharp elbows on Jim.
And,
awesome.
Well, you have to learn how to cheat as you get older.
Yeah, for sure. It becomes more and more important.
Absolutely.
Well, Jim, I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Nice talking to you. Nice meeting you too.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for checking out Effortless Conversations, and we'll have another new guest next week.
Take care.
All right.